right, yeah. Okay, this is the regular meeting of the Town of Washington Planning Board. We do have a quorum present. But we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So first, I just ask if everyone has received a copy of the minutes from last month.
Yes.
And had a chance to review them. Any corrections, changes? No? None. Jim? Can you hear us?
No changes.
Okay, good.
Yes, I can.
Excuse me?
Do you hear me?
Oh, yes,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Okay, yeah.
Must be a delay. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain from voting since I was not at the
Oh,
meeting, so I don't know if it
okay.
was,
Yeah, I should probably as well.
I don't think I can approve of
Yeah.
it. Okay, so then Jim, did you vote were you in
Yes,
favor
I-
of the minutes? Yes, you approved them. Okay, so then we have a quorum to approve them. So the first matter we have on tonight is Majid, Misha, and Denise. They've submitted an application for a lot line adjustment. They own 2 adjacent parcels in an RR10 district. If the applicant's representative could come forward, tell us your name for the record, and tell us, you can sit.
Well, thank you. My name is Nick DeLucia. I am a consultant for Mr. Majid. We came before the planning and ZBA to get a variance. Previously, we put a barn on the property. We would have needed a 36-foot variance, I believe. It was in a 100-foot setback. The ZBA suggested, since we own the property next door, that we should do a lot line realignment. We went one step further. We're combining the 2 lots. And at that point, we can put the barn where he wants to put the barn.
All right.
And it doesn't really hurt us. It just gives him a nice big piece of property.
So you wouldn't need to go before the ZBA?
No. The 2 lots combined, I think, is 30 acres.
35.
Yeah, 35.
So would you even need to have a site plan review then, or a planning board meeting?
No, according to the professionals, I think it was.
We have a sort of shortened way of doing it when
Right.
it's just a lot
Right.
line adjustment.
Yeah.
When they own both
That's what I thought. I was
parcels
just
and,
confirming.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they were actually denied by the ZBA on the basis of they could do this.
Yes, right.
So,
Thank you.
So a lot line of adjustment is favored over a variance.
Well, because he has the means to make the lot larger.
Yeah.
He can move to a barn.
Right, we owned the lot next door, or he did, so
Yeah.
made it simple, and I think it makes more sense.
Okay.
Okay, so that's basically it. There was one issue that was brought up. The adjoining lot is owned in jointly between Mr. Majid and his brother. His brother has passed away.
And when did he die?
you said 2021.
2021.
Okay.
So I just basically, I think what Misha's going to present is I think he's got to present a death certificate and one other piece of paper.
I think we need to have something substantial that shows us
Correct.
that he now owns the
Yeah.
property. So
Yeah.
whether that's a new
He
deed
can
in
produce
his
his death
name or.
certificate and proof that I have retained his interest in the property.
And that would be like something from probate court or?
Yeah, it's, I
surrogate
guess
court?
it's called next of kin testament. So he will supply that too.
I just have him send whatever he has to me
Okay,
and the board, and we'll take a look at it and see
Great.
if it's
Great,
satisfactory.
okay.
A will or,
Is he saying there's not a will?
I'm not quite sure. This just popped up and we talked about it a little bit today before I came up to the meeting. And I think, did you do the review on it?
I did.
Okay.
Do you think he might be talking about a next of kin affidavit?
Probably.
Okay.
probably.
Well, we'll take a look at it and see.
Okay, and he can discuss it and
Yeah,
get you whatever you need.
what,
sure.
the only thing that we would be concerned about is if there are any other interested parties that, and he didn't directly bequeath the land to his
Correct.
brother.
Correct, I understand.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll do. I'll make sure
So-
that he touches base. Do you have a business card or who should I?
I can, yeah, and I can link them up through an email,
Oh,
because
good,
I brought this
perfect.
up in our comment memo,
Yeah,
and
perfect,
I was
thank
deferring
you.
to the attorneys on it,
Thank
so
Okay,
I'm happy to link them up in email, just
That
so
would
we
be
can talk
perfect.
it out. Obviously, we can copy you, Susan, and keep you in the loop.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay.
But I think, you have anything else to add before I go?
okay, I think everybody.
That was really the only comment of material, like there, everything else, it doesn't need county referral, it doesn't, we've been waived the public hearing. It's a type 2 action for seeker, you can declare it a type 2 tonight. And I believe Megan prepared a resolution for approval with some conditions about this issue on the ownership. So,
Right.
So we can approve it with conditions.
yes,
Yeah.
I think that's,
Documentation.
Which
think
means
that's how-
we agree that we'll
Yeah.
do it subject to those
Okay.
conditions, and I just won't sign the final paperwork until those conditions are filled, or
Correct.
fulfilled.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it.
Perfect.
All right, so I guess we do need a motion to declare this type 2 action for seeker. Can I get
So moved.
so moved, seconded,
I'll second Nicole.
and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do we need to do anything with this other permission to file from the, we just put that as a condition? We don't have to
I think,
make a
yeah,
motion?
having it as a condition is fine, because there is a signature block that's needed on the final plat from the Department of Health. So as long as that's part of the resolution, I think it is.
It is, it's, condition, it is one of the conditions.
Okay. So then we just make a motion to approve it, approve the resolution that Megan prepared. Is that okay? So can I get a motion to approve the resolution as prepared by Megan?
So moved.
Seconded?
Nicole, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so
All
much.
set then, so.
I'll have him follow up with the board and with Megan or.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And,
Connect
you can put them together and we'll get this thing done.
And then, once that's all completed, Susan will sign the plat, and then you're good to go.
Yeah.
Good, perfect.
Then we're all set. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a great night, guys.
Thank you. We also have the Upton Lake High School matter on for a continuing workshop.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, how are you? So when we last saw you, we were talking a lot about the wetlands.
Yes.
And Steve Marino was going to go up and mark them, and I understand that he did. And we thought that we would be getting an application from you, a wetlands application, but we did not. So can you update us?
Update you on that. So where everything is, just with timing of everything out, I got all the applications put together, just it wasn't able to get it in time for the 2-week
Mm-hmm.
part of it. So I just haven't submitted it in yet, just with timing. But we did have Steve Marino out to the site, and he did mark out the flags and flag the area throughout the whole wetland area. And then I did have a surveyor, Charles Belucas, who was the original surveyor, did that property, to come back out and do a survey of that. And I was able to get all that mapped out, and I got a set of, for everybody to be able to look at tonight.
Did the town ask him to mark the wetlands, or is that
That,
retained by the applicant?
the applicant ends up paying for that out of their
Okay, but we
escrow,
were
is
the ones
my
who directed
understanding.
that he-
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was curious about.
Yeah.
And we directed him as a result of, he'll need that for wetlands application,
Right, okay,
if he wants to pursue that.
okay, perfect. So make sure I have that right in my notes.
So I got to have a copy for everybody here.
Great.
Yeah, I think you could just turn one around, maybe.
It's one of those things that
flags.
We had made it for an original. That was down from an original 8.
Brian.
Yeah, okay.
Brian.
Some of those things.
Nice one for
Oh, it's this, the dotted line?
So we're not required 7, like.
Yeah.
Where's
We had
the
two
road here?
snowstorms, so the timing of everything just kind of pushed things back a little bit. So in one sense, I was waiting on Steve to try to get out there. He wanted
It's
the
okay,
snow
that's fine.
Mhm.
melt off before he did his thing. So what we were able to do is we were able to delineate where all the markings are, and you'll see
That's this.
so you'll see a W from 1 through
Yep.
15. And those are actually, if you go out on site, you'll actually see those flags out there, and they have marked those with those markings. Now, what I had them do is also do a heavier dotted line. You'll see a gray dotted line is the actual real line to where we are with, so we were.
I'm sorry, say that again? I didn't
I'm
understand.
sorry.
Yeah.
It's marked on.
Where's
The
the
heavy,
heavier
the
gray?
heavy dotted
Oh,
line is
okay.
the actual, I had them highlighted more so.
I see it now.
So
yeah.
we were pretty much right where we're thinking, couple areas where there's a couple feet one direction, a couple feet the other direction, but pretty darn close. And I think it was pretty much what I guesstimated that we were going to be definitely needing a wetland permit. You can see that it is going through the existing parking lot, and it's also going through a portion of the house that we're also looking
This
to
is
take down.
pre-existing. Yeah, but it is pre-existing, but it's not paved, and they want to pave it.
Oh,
So,
And so that,
didn't
that's
realize it
not
wasn't
pre,
paved.
that
so
is.
this is all paved right here, going
Oh,
right
it's
up,
paved.
right up to this spot right here.
Okay, okay, it's a parking lot, but it's not paved.
That's correct.
Okay, so this is already paved then.
That's correct. So I would say it's actually paved all the way straight to the end of the building.
Okay.
And then where the road ends, it's all gravel. Or they may say it's the reclaimed blacktop.
But you're proposing to pave
Yeah.
And
all
that's,
of this?
that's-
Yes,
Yes, right?
yes.
For sure.
So,
Yeah, I thought this was paved.
Are you repaving this part of this?
No, no. So we're only
But that's why I was
looking,
thinking-
we're only looking to pick up, we're only looking to pick up the blacktop where the blacktop ends at the roadway for just the parking area itself. We're not paving any of the other existing area. We're not doing anything as far as reworking any of the road coming in. So that's all going to stay
Is this already
existing.
existing and paved?
I'm sorry, yeah. So this, what we're looking to do is, we've taken away access around the entire building, but what we're looking to try to do is, there's two things back here. One, there's a mechanical room that services the building, and also, there's also, where the existing building is in the corner, there's also a propane tank. So we're looking to be able to capture a couple things. One is to be able to have a service truck come back to the back of the building. There'll be 3 parking spots back there, which would include the total 63 that are now a part of the parking lot. Okay, so it serves as both ability to service the mechanicals, as well as to be able to have a propane truck service the propane tank under
So
the building.
this is a new road
That's
and,
proposed.
and blacktop.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're going to do that, rather than, because if it's going to be a regular service truck, we don't want them driving on grass, or we don't want them driving on gravel. On this end here, we're outside of the buffer, and what we're looking to do is bring it and stop it at the end of the building. And the reason we're looking to do that is because they also have an oil tank here that services, so this building, believe it or not, actually runs on 2 different fuel sources. There's propane in one end and an oil tank in the other. So we want to be able to have it that, in this one, we're not showing as paved. We're looking at doing something, because this one's not as frequent as far as being filled, but we do want to be able to have it that it can be plowed and be able to have access.
It's not in the buffer.
What's that?
That's
It's
not.
not-
No,
That's
that's
good.
not.
It's not in the buffer.
Firmed out, yep.
Yeah.
But we're not doing anything around the rest of the building there. What we've done is we looked at every single possibility, working with surveyor and the site plan engineer, to stay as much out of the buffer as possible. with this particular setup, taking the building down, we want to be able to take the old building and then bring everything back to the existing grass lands and be able to have it. You can see there's a marking that says playground area. We want to be able to have the grassy area be a playground, but not have it in any of the reserve or the septic area.
Would you be leveling that area or digging in the area to make the playground?
Well, yeah, yes, in one sense, you'll see that the lines drop down. There's a 306, 304. Those are the site plan engineers designated elevation points that he wants to be able to maintain for proper drainage around the property. But what we're looking to do, like I said, to keep it a natural flow, keeping everything basically back to natural lawn. I know there's a foundation there, and chances are we're going to be taking the foundation out and then infilling it and
I
grading it
understand
back.
that.
What's here now? How does this tank get serviced?
Right now, how it services a fuel truck will come up and stop right here,
Mhm.
and then do what they can to try to drag everything across the yard this way.
So they drive a hose across.
Yeah, so the difficulty is it's unpredictable when you're always going to need it. There's been times where it's been a beautiful, like this past winter wasn't a bad winter at all, so we really didn't have an issue with snow. But there's been times where all of a sudden it's called for servicing and trying to get the truck back there, trying to drag a 300-foot fuel line to be able to fill it has been a little bit difficult.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Susan.
You
No,
made
I know.
you made these two sections here, the OWTS area smaller on this one.
Now, so it's,
It looks smaller.
well, with the,
What is it?
after.
There's two rectangles.
Yeah, so basically, once the Board of Health paperwork has been all submitted in, this is what the designated size of what they needed for
Okay, I got it. So there's some room over here, isn't there? There's room there. I mean, there's room there. That area there is not developed, huh? Outside of that. I'm just clarifying it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yep.
And you're showing now part of this parking lot within the buffer area.
Right, and then that's actually what was shown last time as well.
Yeah.
And then we have those dotted lines that you're seeing are infiltrators. That's the natural drainage that's designed to go into the ground. The way the engineers designed it is that these infiltrators should be able to handle all water flow from all areas of the property.
So I may be getting ahead of the question we should ask probably during your permitting process, but is there any reason why these parking lots, this portion parking lot that's within the buffer can't be moved over there?
Yeah, I think just the way the traffic flow is working and then trying to also create an area for the children's playground, it's a really good question that you have there, but what
I'd
we're
like you to
really,
answer it.
what we're really talking about is really taking half this entire parking lot out of there, because you're not going to be able to have the ability to be able to park there and then be able to pull out without driving through the buffer.
Well, there's another alternative, is not to pave it.
I'm sorry?
Not to pave that area. There's
Sure.
another alternative, and then you're not disturbing anything and you're not covering it.
Well,
But he wants to
to
put
put
in
in the
his drainage.
infiltrators, I think
Yeah.
that's disturbance.
I know, but that can be relocated more too, or you don't think so?
That's an engineering question, yeah,
Right.
for their
I
engineering.
understand that, and I agree with you.
It might just be based on the contours, and that's the best
It
spot.
Probably is.
If everything drains to that spot, that's where it's got to be, I would imagine.
Say
If
again,
everything drains to that
Yeah, yeah,
location,
yeah.
that's probably,
but no, it's, I
I
can
don't
see
know
how
that, but
things are draining in that direction, yes. I'm asking the questions because we're gonna ask them again.
These are good questions. To me, to try to make that all gravel, to me, it would look like a half done.
I know
half-done
that,
project.
I know that, but
Right.
it may be the way you get this project approved.
Understand. What we're trying to do is, we're also looking at the benefit of removing existing septic that's in the buffer, removing the building out of there and returning everything back to now.
You know, personally, I think that this restoration is beneficial.
As well as
So
over here.
I'm not saying that would be something that I would vote to make you not get a permit by doing that, but that's up to others may have a different opinion because it isn't within the buffer. But I would still like to be able, I'm going to put the question back and not make any opinions at this point. Is there any reason why you can't relocate those parking spaces? And that's the basic question, because that's an important question.
That's part of the wetland review.
If there are any other options for places for you to put the parking spots, then typically, or for anybody who comes in front of the board for this, is if there's another option, then we can't grant it.
Sure.
If there's really only if there's no other option than to go into the buffer.
And the truth is, we're working extensively with our site plan engineer and with your surveyor and trying to capture everything without going into the buffer and being able to give the children back a playground. There really isn't, without making a LaGuardia airport style.
Right. What's the flow of the kids during the day? Are they walking through here, from here to here?
Well, yeah, so right now, the kids are, if they have to go to the gym, they're walking through this gravel parking lot. There's no sidewalk, it's just a big, open, empty gravel parking lot at the moment.
So they're walking through the parking lot?
Right now.
Okay.
And in the future, they will be in this building, so they will be walking between these buildings.
Correct.
And from here to the playground?
Yeah, so with the playground, same thing. We want to be able, we were looking originally to have, that cars parking would be able to have a sidewalk that can walk to the sanctuary. This is for the church people on Sundays. And then for any of the staff, they would be able to have a sidewalk walking on this side, because chances are the staff would be able to park all in this section here, in this front section. So a little walkway to a sidewalk that can go into the building. If the kids are going to go to the playground, it has an option to be able to do a crosswalk and be able to walk over, so they're not walking in the parking lot, or they'd be able to walk down this way to the. So that's why we didn't want to take and put it. You take a look here, if you're cutting through this, we're taking out almost 22 parking spots, and to be able to put that here, it makes it a difficult turnaround to be able to back in, back out. We've explored literally every option to try to make it so that it's a comfortable spot, even down here, to be able to put parking. It creates a blind curve to be able to back in, back out, and if buses are coming in. Not that, then traffic's not heavy, but still we want to make it be that any given Sunday, cars can come in, cars come out comfortably.
Yeah, I would think, and that's why I'm asking, the priority would be the kids can walk around and not have to walk through a parking lot where someone can back
I can
up.
understand the
So-
priority for the traffic flow. I can understand that. So, the circular drive is important.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's the one consideration that you could say would maybe your reason why the parking lot has to be like it is for the circular traffic and for the flow of the children. But if you just look at this part of the wetlands law, look at that.
Sure.
Right? And I'll read it to you in a second, but you just look at that. And it's our dilemma.
Yeah, but
Which section are you pointing to?
Section D, which says we won't give a permit unless all alternative sources.
right, but the question is that a viable alternative, given the use of this property?
Yeah.
I would be very much opposed to putting the parking lot.
No, I'm hearing what
Right,
he's saying.
so just 'cause
I
the
asked him the
space-
question, he's answering
Right,
it
yeah.
in his own way, he's actually.
Just because the space is there doesn't mean.
You are, and not directly, but sort of roundabout, I'm getting the gist. The parking, the flow of the parking and the traffic is more of a reason to keep this parking lot than any other reason. And I like the idea that the children can have a means to get to the playground without having to walk through high grass or put some other kind of path in.
Right, and this is also an existing road that loops back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
provides
existing
that-
The
road.
fact that there's such an existing, what is existing, remind me,
Yeah, sure.
today? What's
So
there now?
even Aaron, you sent Steve a really nice aerial photo of the existing. I don't know, did you guys get CC'd on that?
I think I saw
This was
something like
probably
that.
about maybe 3
Previously.
weeks ago. So to answer that question, this gravel parking lot is already here.
Is it this, I was up there, I drove through this, and I remember, but I wouldn't be able to tell you, is it this wide, is it this, what's the difference?
It's as long, because if you take a look at it, it goes from the existing school building all the way over to the house. And the house actually has a dirt driveway that rides all the way back around it. So that's the other thing, is we're looking to do away with that road that comes up and around, because right now there are faculty that park up on this section. We want to do away with that, so that all faculty, everybody's all parked in the same location. Are you seeing what I was?
Yep, I got it.
So again, that all goes to grassy area, and then where the buffer is, we stay above the buffer, for the children's area in this location.
So this area that we're talking about infiltrating with the drainage is
It's already there.
already, it's not blacktopped, but it already has that crushed,
It's
Whatever
it's
they
what they
call
call reclaimed blacktop, it's
Reclaimed.
already
Yeah,
there.
see
so
this?
that's already there.
Yeah, it's already a parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the road coming in. Right, here's the sanctuary, that's the elementary school,
Yep.
right, and this is the site of the new school, so this has all been,
So it's going to be made nicer and more of a circle,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's going to
more
have more
professionally
park
planned.
space,
Yeah,
but in the area that was within the buffer seems to be already
Yeah.
Existing.
paved is not the right word, I don't know what the right word is, but
Disturbed.
disturbed. And so it will be disturbed more, but for an improvement, which would be this drainage.
That's
And
correct.
then
That's correct.
blacktopping on top, that's an iffy.
So right now on the property, there is no specific drainage, right? So what we're looking to do at this point,
into the water
Yeah.
anyway.
so the way the engineer is designed, if you take a look at each, on the site plan, there's these squares, and the squares have a designated number to them, like
This is-
302, 304.
Yeah.
So the engineer has designated on these points to make the grade to be at a certain level, so everything is flowing as it should. It's not haphazardly going. And so then there are storm drains going and designated at certain points all around, so that everything now goes where it's supposed to go. Natural swales,
And that's what we're gonna run here.
and then the water that's designed to go there is gonna go there. I mean, there's already a natural swale that's already going around the building. We're not planning on touching that. There's no need for that in that area there. And again, when we did testings all around the property, it was 8 feet down before we would hit any water, and it's all bank run gravel there. It's one of the best areas that when we built the sanctuary 3 years ago, if I pulled a rock out that was bigger than 4 inches, that was it. It was really nice soil.
So it's very permeable.
Yeah.
And very, that's gravel.
Okay.
That's good.
Aaron, do you have anything else that?
no, I think I sent you a copy of Steve's email where he said he gave some guidance to Mr. Bovee about submitting the application, that he would be asked to look at it following receipt of that and offer some recommendations probably for how to.
I met Steve out there, nice guy, and we walked the property, showed him all the areas, so he was quite familiar with everything that we've gone through.
So it's pretty clear that, the buffer it's finalized now. We know what it is, and it's still showing the infiltration area and the parking lot in that spot within it. So the advice that Steve gave Mr. Bovee was, and I agree, was to just go ahead and submit permit application. And then we'll add that to the site plan and continue reviewing. I think there was also some outstanding traffic study info
Yeah,
or
and
trip
so-
generation info.
I've reached out to a couple different traffic study people, but I actually reached out to Steve because I understand that their company also does traffic study, and with the idea that they're already there, it made sense to say, hey, what he was going to do, though, was to check with his superiors, wasn't sure if it was a conflict of interest, I said, well, to me, it's like, if you're representing this, I'm okay with you representing, because it's actually going to the town of Clinton. You guys aren't really the ones that are concerned on it as much as it's the town of Clinton. And I'm okay with either way with that. To me, keeping it in-house, in a sense, that having one person who's already, in a sense, familiar with it, or at least the company, made sense to me. I reached out to another company and I've yet to hear back from them. So we're at a,
I mean,
you see a conflict?
what do you think? I mean, I feel like it's because, and we offer the same services. We have traffic engineers too, but we offer, and our role is to review what you give us. We can't work for you.
Yeah, he can't.
And
be
I don't think,
consultant in that.
and I think Steve is in the same position as us in that he's the town's retained consultant for wetlands assistance, and I don't think he's going to be able to work directly for the applicant.
Yeah, that's a conflict of interest.
I didn't see it that way myself. It just,
I mean, we don't do it that way. So.
But see, we pay him, and he's our consultant.
Well, he gets,
Well,
he
they
actually
pay
gets
him
paid through the
in the
escrow
end.
account from
They
the
pay him.
applicant,
Yes.
but he works for the town.
Right.
Represents the town's interest.
Yeah. So
I'm
that's,
okay to work with whoever if it's more convenient for everybody. That's
I would just advise you to line them up and get it done, because all of these things just make your timing, you're another month and another month and.
Well, trust me, and that's exactly it. Just to get, the Army Corps of Engineers, it took me almost 3 weeks just to be able to get somebody back, because nobody's sitting in the office.
Yeah.
You're trying to get DEC, it is taking long.
Yeah.
Just there's,
Actually, you didn't need to do that.
I'm sorry?
Actually, you didn't need to do that.
Well, when you, in the application, there's actually making note
It
of
does.
DEC and Army
I
Corps of
realize that.
Engineers.
Yeah.
So I went the extra mile to go and do that. And it's just like getting Steve out there. It's not like a quick turnaround
Yeah,
time.
everything
So
takes
there-
time. That's
it's a
what I'm saying. I
process.
line them
Right.
up as quickly as you can so that you'll be ready for the next
Yeah.
meeting and
So we'll see you next month with the application.
Yeah, with an
for the
application.
wetlands
for a permit.
application.
Yes, and that's when we're really getting into it now, but we'll discuss it.
I see
So
that.
I have the full stuff, and I'll submit it in with Kristen tomorrow.
So you have a copy of the wetlands law, totally, you have it?
I believe I do.
Okay, so were you familiar with this little paragraph?
Yep.
Because that's the key one that we're addressing here. That you have no alternative.
Yeah, we worked every alternative that we could.
Okay, so-
I think this-
So you'll have to.
I just have one more question. I'm
No,
sorry.
we don't have a wetlands application pending or
No,
anything,
no,
Howard,
not
so I don't
that.
think that you
They
should.
sometimes accept the 2-for-1 mitigation. So if you mitigate outside of that buffer, 2-for-1, you can keep that buffer, you can go into the buffer.
I'm not familiar with that.
I'm not
That's
familiar
even
with the
our
2
law.
for 1. I have
It's
been,
done, it's done already.
yeah, I never
In
heard
this
that
town?
term. 2
In
for
this
1.
town, Big
Just on
Horse Farm.
Wednesdays.
was it a, is that,
We definitely have had.
is that a DEC
applications
wetland
where,
or an Army Corps wetland?
There's
That
a
was-
lot of mitigation,
This guy
right?
wanted to rebuild the whole
Right.
wetland, and he.
Was it a town wet-
Mitigation,
Was it a town wetland or was it under,
probably DEC wetland.
yeah, DEC does the mitigation. In this case, it's really the town that has jurisdiction on this stream.
It's really only our
So
law.
it's us,
that's-
yeah, it's your law and Steve's recommendations, for how to replant that area, how to protect it.
Would have been an easy solution.
Yeah, I know.
Well, yes, there is some
Well-
refurbishing when the schoolhouse is taken down.
Yeah,
So there is an exchange.
that can help mitigate some.
Septic
Yeah.
is,
I don't want to speak for Steve, but I know he's going to want to look at like what you're planting in that area and things like
Yeah,
that. Now,
no,
where's
he's
the
gonna-
water
I'll
going?
make recommendations.
Yeah, I'll leave it to him to comment, but that's,
I see you've got a lighting detail. Is that new? I know we had some discussion on that.
That's
Howard had some
been-
questions.
That's been-
Was there something new on the lighting detail, or is it just here?
No, nothing new. I mean, right since I knew Howard wanted the dark sky compliant with the food on that, we jumped on that right away. And so that's already, we haven't had any additional lighting on there. We're keeping everything low Kelvin, low wattage, with hoods on there, and then even the minimum amount of lighting on the building, non-reflecting, and it's also timed to go off at a certain time in the evening after any sports events or last person out. So,
Thank you very much.
Perfect. Love that.
So the section I've been referring to, I'll just say it out loud so that everyone knows. Section D in the wetland zone, it says no permit approval shall be considered for the proposed regulated activity by the planning board unless and until the applicant has demonstrated a preponderance of the evidence through a submission of data analysis and other support that there is no reasonable alternative to proposed regulated activity. So
I think
that's why,
the important word in that, though, is no
Reasonable.
reasonable
Rea-
alternative.
yes, yeah.
Reasonable.
right, and we also have discretion. So I just don't
It's a
want to
good
set a
section, yeah.
precedent for.
Yeah, but the reasonable, just because the space is there
Yeah,
doesn't mean.
so I'd like it
it's-
to be specific.
Mhm.
If we can.
Yeah.
Right.
Sounds good. Can I grab one of these?
Sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, just following up on the, using Tim Miller Associates for a traffic study, I don't know if I would recommend that, just based on, like I said, conflict issues. Yeah. Tim Miller and AKRF are solely working for the town's interests and reviewing applicant submissions for the town. Our technical expertise will inform their decision. So, yeah, for that reason, it's better to use someone that's not working in the town.
Thank you for your time. Great to see you guys again.
See you. We'll see you soon.
See you next month.
Yes, we will be able to push this through and keep things moving forward. Thank you.
Can I have a map?
Oh, sure. Hard hearing.
Sorry.
You're wonderful.
Howard would like one, he's got right behind you, too. Since you have the extras, we might as well.
What I'll also do is I will send Kristen a PDF version of this
Mhm.
computer as well. If everybody has
That's
that.
great.
Thank you.
That's great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
So, we also had on the agenda the list of zoning code changes. So I forgot my computer, so I don't even have it.
I can pull it up for you.
But I think really the question was, has everybody had a chance to look at that? Does anybody else? So does anybody have any additions or any other thoughts of things that they've noticed that we should add to it?
So a question just to start with is, what does it take to get these implemented? It has to go to the town?
Oh, it's a process.
It's a process.
That's why I actually contacted Paul Schwartz because many times he had said, "Oh, we have a list." So I said, "Well, where you had a list?" And he said, "Oh, I think Al Bonus had the list." So I don't know what happened to the list for Al. And so I played phone tag a lot with Mary Alex. I think she's out a bit last week, so I want to find out if she has a list. But this has been going on for years because it is not a simple thing of, okay, we have problems with the zoning code and we can immediately implement it. But it needs to be, each section needs to be rewritten to, and then the town board needs to approve whatever those changes are. So it's not an instantaneous thing. So the idea is to at least get this all rolling. Am I saying all of that correctly, Leslie?
So,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, I think that I saw all the back and forth, you all just coming up with, so Aaron, the things that you and Sarah saw that were really kind of problematic or sticky or not clear, and then if there are other things that you'd like the board to consider that are kind of, in those categories, I think sort of cleanup makes sense and wouldn't be, wouldn't warrant a broader discussion, but if there's other things, I'm conflating, I think, some of the comments from CAC that are planning board. So I have to refresh my memory, look through what's been discussed between those two committees, but yeah, just to get your thoughts and feedback. And then as it relates to past, suggestions or comments from former chairs, that's great if that exists, but if
Finding it is
if
that.
it doesn't exist, I feel pretty confident that we have, because we have AKRF here and
That we're hitting
that's,
on.
we're hitting on the important points, just we have real professionals that are helping to kind of advise us on areas we might want to fine tune a little bit. And I think Sarah Wilson also has some very experience.
Yeah, I think, and
But we didn't get a list.
Sarah had a list, she said she did, but she was in the middle of transitioning out.
No, we don't have a
We reached
list.
out Yeah, I tried to get it for her last day, but
I will try to find it.
Yeah.
She did develop it, and I thought she was sending it to you, Erin.
yeah, she said she would, but then she didn't. I followed up.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I actually have her cell phone too, so I can ping her too. I'm sure she was really out.
Neil Wilson before we had a list.
Well, this
He was an old attorney. Lots of zoning code changes, like things that are wrong. Paul did say it so many times.
That was the gap we had, was we didn't really have anything to work off of pre-2022, because we got involved in 2022, and we're seeing all these things as we've been doing stuff. And I know she had a longer history, and she had some ideas, so I was just trying to, I was gonna get her list and combine it with ours, or supplement it, whatever it was,
And then the
but
discussion was, well, are they?
That's ours.
Are to screen it
Yeah.
from the road? And so we went through and looked at the code, and then we had that house that put that giant panel out, right,
Right, in
the
everyone's
intersection.
face, yeah.
And, yeah, in everybody's face. And then basically what we decided, it was a little bit gray, was that what it meant was that you could have it, and it had to meet all these specifications, but it could not be seen from any public road. But the way that it's written, it doesn't say it's not as straightforward as it should be. It should be very.
There's a lot of that, and that's the whole point, is there's a lot of that in the code that,
My comment there is about non-conforming lots and all the non-conforming language. It's really difficult to read through and understand. I mean, I just,
Non-conforming.
non-conforming. right.
non-conformity, non-conforming use, non-conforming
Yes.
structure,
Right.
they're used
So-
interchangeably, sometimes within the same.
That's section 391.7.
391.
It's really difficult because every sentence.
391.7.
Yeah, that every sentence sort of almost is a whole new
Contradicting
idea.
itself,
And you
yeah.
really have to think about it, and it's very confusing.
So that's our number 6 on the list. We
Yeah.
just thought,
Number 6
identif-
and number 7, right?
yeah, we identified,
Oh, yeah. you have
but in
that.
general, the
Yeah,
whole end section should just be reworked. I
So
think.
that, then, you have another, second comment, number 10, about the town website maps. Where's that? Is that 10 or?
10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so you may or may not know, but there's a NRI committee, which is a National Resource Committee, which I'm a member of. And there's a tremendous amount of remapping done that takes into consideration the new comprehensive committee plans that were done and other environmental aspects, looking at water tables and aquifers and stuff like that. That's going to be extremely helpful. And
Is it a
when
town
the
committee?
what?
Is it a town committee or a county committee?
It's a town committee, yeah. And so when those maps are done, and I imagine it won't be done until, there'll be a public interaction period, and the planning board will have a chance to review those maps and the document. And so there'll be plenty of input into it, but eventually, I'm hoping, and many of us are hoping, that the town will adopt those, put them in a zoning code, because they would be very useful to us in the future. Because if there's ever a question about, will the development impact the water supply to the town? It designates which lots and which properties feed that water supply, not only directly downslope, but through the aquifer layers. And so, that's an important aspect, because the town, the village itself is very concerned about its water supply. And documenting that. Now, we're not doing any investigation here. It's all being done, and it's pretty much existing maps, which has been collated properly. So it's in a form that we could use. I mean, it's all this documentation is part of not only just the DEC, but all these national programs of the documentation of soil types, permeability, and trees and land, and it's really something. Leslie, you want to talk about it a bit?
Yeah, I just, so the town of Washington, with the village of Millbrook and the town of Clinton applied for technical support for a joint natural resources inventory. The DEC is overseeing this process with us, and Richard Phillips and I and Margaret Schneibel are on that task force. And what they've asked for from the town, which Margaret, who sort of has been closest to it because she was doing a lot of the mapping and work with the CPRC committee, they supplied a lot of those maps to Nan Stolzenberg, who looked at them with her experts. So those maps that Nan worked on and updated with the committee, and other maps that we had in our possession that were not looked at by the committee, all of those maps have been given to the DEC, And they're looking at them to make sure that they're updated and have all the information that we need. It's with the maps that the county has. It's part of this Hudson River Estuary Program effort so that we can see how our water interacts with, town, village, and our neighboring municipalities, in this case, Clinton. So Richard's correct, there's going to be a public participation period, which is common, I guess, when they do these joint NRIs, and that should happen sometime between May and July. So I think we'll have those maps updated, or at least updated in shape where they can be approved by the town board. In addition to that, the maps that were looked at and discussed in the hospitality addendum to the comprehensive plan, which will be discussed, and I anticipate, because we did get approval or we got feedback from county about the addendum already, which we'll discuss at the town board meeting on the 20th. That doesn't have any concerns or obstacles. They had questions or things they wanted the town to look at, which we've either done or in the process of doing. So the maps that Nan included in that addendum will be maps that will become, my question that I actually asked to Jeff Battistoni was, how do we approve these maps or make them official so that planning and zoning can use those most updated maps, even in the interim between now and when the NRI is finished. So we'll talk about that on the 20th. But as Richard said, I think it's great we have updated maps and we have comprehensive maps and we have maps that we really haven't looked at historically, and they have some of them, and you can see it in the CPRC addendum. They have maps on view sheds and all different kinds of things that that are really interesting to look at and will be very helpful and informative, I think, for you all. So
Great.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, one thing that we notice when we go through like the zoning code that's available online is just the PDF.
Yeah.
It's not the E-code version yet. And at the back end, there's the maps that are just really hard to decipher.
Yeah.
Terrible. And there are sections
there's
missing,
some that have
even
been
on
modernized,
the
and we've gotten what we can from James and from Howard's given me a couple. Yeah, from Cornell, the modernized GIS versions, and we have those on our network now. We refer to those where we can, but it would be great if what we have in the back of the zoning text is formalized as
I
well.
think there'll be 12.
That's great.
12 maps.
I also, we are with the web update, which with a lot of other projects going on, we haven't had a meeting recently on the content, but I do believe the town is thinking about engaging the company that the village used to update, to have a more updated, more user-friendly website, and with that exercise would be to update those maps. And I think that Mary also contracted, do you know, Kristen, there was that company where you could put in, it'd be great, James could use it and Aaron could use it, you could put in the address and it pulls up the site map. I think that's part of our budget for this year. Yes, it's something, but it's a newer version that we're going to use.
I don't know the name of it, though.
But you know what I'm talking, we budgeted for that this year. We approved that as part of the budget, so that would be terrific.
That would be great on the website.
You know, live feed, and you can look at that through the website. But I'm excited about the potential for that because the village's website, it's that firm that we looked at, so really just took the information, updated it, and we can provide them with the forms and everything else that we're working on, and just make it a little more user-friendly and easier to navigate.
So, for these zoning code changes, anybody have any more? Any other comments?
I would just like to add that one about with the solar, that the language be made more definitive so that we don't end up with multiple projects where we have to then again state, well, the code says it, but we're just going to be really direct with you and say, you can't see it from a public road.
Right.
Because it came up with the Cary Institute, then it came up with residential a structure where they put a giant panel out at the corner of two public roads. But the code says you can't be able to see the panel from a public road. But it takes like 4 sentences to say it, and
Yeah,
could be
that's also-
interpreted another way. Anyway, I think we should just, if that's what our
Yeah.
intent was, which we've had people stand up that wrote that and said that was the intent, it should be, you can't argue, it should just be strict.
Which
short
one is
and
that?
sweet.
Can you give me this section? Or you have the
I forget.
Excel,
It's a
right?
separate.
Yeah, I'm gonna add it to the Excel, yeah.
I think you could say that, but unless there's no other alternative, because, for instance, I have solar panels on my property, and they're hidden, you can't see them, right, they're behind my house. That's like a big array, it's not like a little 2 panels, it's a lot. My whole property is run on those solar panels. But you can see them from a road about a mile away.
A hill that looks
Uphill
down.
that looks down, right.
Yeah.
So, but you can't see them from the road when you're in front of my house or in front of my neighbor's houses, but you can see them from a road. And you can't see them from any of my neighbor's
Needs to be
properties.
somewhat specific and.
So
yeah.
you have to give some wiggle room there. 'Cause,
It's interesting, there's someone that lives high on a hill, and you can see Millbrook School's solar, I mean, it's far away.
right.
I think what the intent is, though, is, people just not, let's say the town hall just put
Yeah, yeah,
40
no,
panels,
I'm just
see
trying
them
to,
from the road. I think we can use language to
Jason.
explain what that means
Right.
from the road. And I'm curious where there might have been a miscommunication in the case of the residential installation that I know, there was discussion around that in conversation there, that the owner wasn't aware of the her responsibility to put, to block it.
the screen, yeah.
To screen it, and so she spent all the money on the panels. I'm wondering where that process
Well,
fell
one,
through. Is it on the building permit? Where do we need to make it so that everyone's clear about, what's
first of
required?
all, we need these things to be in the code. If you pull up the zoning code, the solar law isn't in there.
Yeah, it's local law number
It's-
1,
But
2018.
it should have been inserted, as was like the wetlands law.
But it says
The
in
wetlands
local
law
we
wasn't there
replace it.
until last year either,
It is-
so.
there is a section.
They did, it's approved, it's law, but it should be,
But
it's
it's
supposed to
also-
be added to the zoning code, but things don't always get added, so
Right.
people don't even know. Like, until last year or so, the old wetlands law was still on there.
Right.
And so people would go in and read that, and they think that's the one they need to be complying with. And then they don't know anything about this town has its own separate other law. So that's really important, is just getting the laws in there so that people
Are
can
you
see
just
them.
referring to commercial solar
Yeah.
panels?
My
Or-
understanding was, I was pretty new to the board at the time, but as you guys know, that Cary Institute put in a
Yeah,
large
yeah.
solar field for many, many panels, and it was very visible from a public road.
Yeah,
I mean-
that's a commercial
They
installation. isn't it?
denied, and put it bluntly, they said it would be completely screened with 6-foot trees.
Right.
Yeah.
The trees were 3 feet high, they were spaced too far apart.
But when we tried to hold them accountable for
But
not
that's the
following
town's
what they
board's
said.
responsibility to
Right,
hold them accountable.
but there was a discussion, and they said, well, we're not sure we even have to really screen it, because it doesn't say that it doesn't have to be visible. We were just doing that to be nice.
That's exactly what
And there
they
was
said.
some discussion about it, that they said, when they went through with their attorney and went through our solar law,
Right.
that it doesn't really say that it can't be seen from a public
So
road.
we have
They
to
were saying
just-
they were just being nice, and so that we should just be lucky that we even got the 3-foot trees and whatever else they decide to do.
Sure.
So I think.
That's what happened. That is what happened.
That's
Yeah,
what
I think
happened.
you have to distinguish between the size, residential, small solar panels like round mount, and that kind of commercial
They're commercial
installation.
property.
Yeah.
But
Not
neither Nicole nor I were here when that was approved.
Right.
When
We were
that
just on the
had
backside of
already
when it
was
went
approved,
sideways.
it was only when
Yeah.
then it
No.
wasn't
And they
properly
just-
screened and everyone was screaming.
So they
and-
eventually ended up screening it with some kind of fencing, so the fencing is almost as onerous as the.
But they have a different thing that's growing in front of it.
Yeah.
They
No, they-
decided to
it's like-
plant
That
these,
was a temporary thing until the growth of.
Yeah.
until the native plantings
So
that
the
they
trees
did.
are actually growing.
Glare of
Yeah.
people driving there in the morning complained Al DeBones was alive then. They complained to Al.
I
And he
remember
went
this.
down and looked, and there was
And there was a big
243,
glare.
There was a glare problem.
There was a big glare problem. But the law says you shouldn't be able to see any solar panels from a public road.
But are you talking about
seems pretty
roof
clear
mounted
to
ones
me,
or
but-
ground mounted ones? Because there's two
Right.
different kinds of solar
What I'm
panels.
just saying is, I think our solar law, or whatever is going to go into the code, is inadequate.
Yeah.
It needs to be very
So,
specific
because
about all these
there are
things.
mounted
Easy.
solar panels all over this town. And you can see them
Right.
right from the road,
The-
because their houses are right on the
the
road.
res-
Some of them
Residential-
may pre-exist the solar law, though. We can't really get at those ones that people put them in before the law was passed. I think the law was only passed in 2018.
2018.
So if somebody put them in 2015,
No,
we
you
really
can't.
can't
I
go
think it
after
does say that for ground mounted is what it
Yes,
says. You
yes,
should-
it is
you
ground
can't see them
mounted.
from,
That's can be challenged in a lot of ways, because who says we're ground mounted isn't the building, so, it's.
well, then it talks about roof mounted. It's a separate section
Yeah.
about roof
Right.
mounted.
now.
Are you looking at that? I think it's section 6, commercial.
I looked at it a few weeks ago.
I mean, if you look at it and you can think of a way to beef it up,
And-
that's helpful too for us.
But do we,
Otherwise,
is the
it's-
assumption that we want to inhibit the installation of solar panels?
No,
That-
I think
Do they
that
want
would
to
be,
complicate it?
that would be
I
a
don't
no-no
think that
federal
was the
law.
idea.
I know, but
think
is the net result that we're making it more onerous and more
Yes,
difficult for
see,
someone
when
to
you say
convert
it
to
can only
solar?
be-
It's
when you
certainly
say it
more
can only be
onerous. When
visible
you
from the road,
require
right, you are
complete
making
screening,
it
that's
Right, but-
very
put solar
expensive.
panels on certain
So, but
properties.
is that the direction we want to go in?
I think we just need to be, that when people use solar, it just needs to be done in a way that's responsible to their neighbors, because it could also devalue somebody else's property.
Yeah.
Like in that particular instance, there was a giant solar panel, like a wing, that went up right in front of this other person's house. And now they no longer had sun
Yeah,
on their
I know where
property.
you're talking
Yeah,
about.
And so people
Yeah.
need to be responsible in the way that they do this. I don't want to
Yeah.
inhibit anybody or keep them, suppress them from having solar, but people can't just willy-nilly go do whatever they want when it affects their neighbor's property or the
Absolutely.
whole neighborhood and the
Yeah.
community.
Absolutely, but
There's also the option of putting it on the roofs, right?
Right, which is what ultimately what that one person did, and it looks very
they had to
nice.
take that up, the one that was,
Yeah, because it was in violation. But what they did is instead they put the solar panels all in the roof tiles.
Right, okay.
Oh, that's a new
It's-
thing,
it's
yeah.
in
Yeah, the solar,
tiles.
That's really
She
those are nice.
retiled her roof,
Right,
That's a
with
bit
and the
solar
expensive.
tiles
panels.
are solar.
Yeah,
It's not, one of those old school panels that actually just goes up on the roof.
yeah.
It is actually part of the tile, and it looks
I love
pretty
that.
nice.
Great.
It looks pretty nice.
Yeah.
The thing with the public roads too is tricky, is that public roads within the town of Washington or any public road, right?
Any
As you
public
say.
road.
You have a view of it from Clinton or
Right.
Dover, that from a mountain. Do we
Yeah.
care?
Well,
You know what I mean? Like
that's-
that's,
That's properties,
That's-
all,
yeah,
properties are at higher elevations from me.
right.
You can see my rooftop.
It has to be
But-
reasonable. I
but
think
for-
that
Right.
the-
Everything should be reasonable.
Everything should be
Yeah,
reasonable. That's
adjacent.
why I always come back
When your
to.
neighbor
Adjacent
throws
roads
up a giant solar
might be
panel
good.
that looks
No,
like an
that
airplane
Yeah,
wing and
that's
blocks
not
all the
reasonable.
sunshine from your property, and that's all you can see
Yeah.
anymore.
This
That
is
is
not
irresponsible.
reasonable.
Yeah.
Adjacent public roads.
Yeah, exactly.
Public
Yeah.
roads,
Public roads.
fronting.
Totally didn't happen.
Draft.
We can draft something.
That'd
That'd
be
probably be a
interesting
lot
to
of draft.
straighten out, because it's
Yeah.
very delicate, I mean, just.
And also keep in mind for
Can't set
seeker
back people's rights to have
purposes,
solar
when we're talking
panels.
about visual impacts, it's about
Right.
You can't,
publicly
because
accessible.
Eventually, those panels that are so.
But the thing with these solar ones, they don't all have to come to us.
More and
for
more
They don't.
important in the
So,
country to have.
we
that
don't
kind of
That's
get
right,
into
message.
that's my
It's
point.
up.
There's going to be a lot of
Yeah,
pressure
and
for people
we have
to
the
install
problem.
solar panels, so we can't be seen as inhibiting it.
No.
I think we do have to have reasonable requirements and
Yeah,
expectations.
Yeah, I think it could be worked
But our
out.
posi- yeah,
You just, you can't
But our
unreasonable.
code should be such that there's not a lot of gray area in
Yes.
there. That
Yeah.
there's some interpretation and reasonable interpretation of things, but it should be pretty straightforward
Yep.
Right.
in most
So
cases.
now
Yeah.
it says the panels cannot be visible from a neighbor's adjoining property closer than 300 feet. I mean, closer than 300 feet. So if it's 500 feet away and you can see them from your neighbor's property, it's okay, but 300 feet is the limit, right? That you
Oh,
have
is
to
that
have
what it
300
says?
feet. So it's not just your buffer and your setbacks, it's your setback, possibly more onto your neighbor's residence that can't be visible. I had to go through all of that with my panels. I mean, I had like 10 square feet I could put them in.
just with the building
But you
department.
managed to
right?
do
You
it.
don't do that. That's the thing, the planning board doesn't have any,
This is my concern. Right
View
now, we have
authority
those
on
giant, that look like huge airplane wings, that's what the panels are right now. But in 5 years or 8 years, it's going to be something much
Yeah.
better. And then whose responsibility is then to
Taking
remove those
down.
giant pieces of metal that are full of chemicals? Who is going to remove those and pay to have them
It's good.
It's
question.
deposited
be
somewhere?
in
It's
the-
going to be hugely expensive, and they're just going to be carcasses everywhere because there's going to be better technology. where's the responsibility then within the
In that
governorship of
commercial
the-
one by Carrie, wasn't there something about
There's
what happened?
decommissioning plans usually
Decommissioning
for
plans.
big
There was.
utilities.
Bond
for-
or something out
Yeah,
there that says.
there is.
at the
There
end
was,
of it,
that's
you
what-
have to.
That's how, for the big commercial installations, there's a requirement usually for that,
No, they
decommissioning.
underestimated, there's a fee.
They have to have a bond, that's what
They
it is.
underestimated the fee, they had to re-estimate the fee according to the silver numbers. There was a whole thing was a
Yeah.
mess with Carrie.
That was a mess, yeah. Okay, so-
There is a dismantling fee at the end.
Yes.
Okay.
So the
Okay, I think
town
that for
is
the commercial
bonded or
ones, I think
something,
we're
the
set,
town,
but I
forget what it
don't,
was.
Yeah.
So that the town can recoup the money if they don't do it.
okay, so moving on. Do we have any other suggestions? You can always just continue to send them to me
I
or to
will email
Aaron.
you something
And
in the next few days about the solar stuff that I can remember coming up with the Cary and with that one particular residential area
Mhm.
where, with just the snippet where, and maybe my suggestion for how to clean it
So
up, but
that would be
just so you
great.
guys can
So
look at
can
it.
you
and
copy
see.
me on
Yeah.
that too?
Yeah, I'll send it to everybody so you guys can.
We can
look
add
at
it to that Excel. I think the way that
that
Excel is
Excel is
structured,
good.
because it has, like, the
Keeping people's
section-
names, who's
Okay.
just,
the issue identified, the section of the code, and then just whatever you want to say as far
So
as
just
your
add it to the
thoughts.
Excel sheet, okay.
yeah.
You could do it that way too, yeah.
Is that, was,
Send
would
it,
that be
send it to
better?
me, because I'm not so good with those ones where other people add it
All
and
right.
then you.
Well, if you're-
I'll just send you the section, what I would recommend,
messed
and then
that
you
up.
guys can all see what you think.
That works.
Good.
And then it's due by 14th, Leslie? Is that when you wanted?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. The town board meeting is April 20th.
These
This
comments,
week is jammed with.
Yeah, well, I
other
remember
stuff.
seeing an email where you said
Yeah,
having
I'd love to
something.
just give it to the board, just to get them thinking
That's
about it.
next
Because
Friday.
The
Okay.
intent is to, if we're gonna open the code and have public hearings on parts of it, that it was recommended by Nan that we try to do it all at once. That being said, I don't know if I don't know how much we're gonna have.
Yeah, exactly, there's a lot of changes and they all need to be drafted, each
Including the
section
table of
change
contents,
needs
which
the
makes no
table of
sense.
contents.
Yeah,
so you were looking at table contents and the page numbers have nothing to do with the
Nothing to do with
sections.
it.
So I'd love just to get it to the board, just to get,
Okay.
start thinking about that process. That's one of the
So we'll get you what we
things-
have by next week.
Yeah,
That's what
that's great.
I'll
And
do.
then just they'll
And we
sort of
should
think, oh
keep
gosh,
it on
there's
the list.
We should.
And once a year,
material
we'll
here,
submit
we
that
have to
list.
figure out
Yeah.
next
Sounds like-
steps.
Sounds good,
Every
not lost in the
January, just
ether.
submit the list.
Yeah.
That's what we had this year.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, one last thing. I sent everyone the revised planning board application. And does anybody have any comments, changes? Because I'm going to be giving that to Mary Alex and she is going to have the town board approve it.
I would like to make this comment. I agree with Andrew. I think that the fees for major subdivisions should be much higher than they are. They're almost equal to a minor subdivision. And I think major subdivisions should pay, because we'll be sitting and reviewing major subdivisions here, not for one meeting, but more like this high school.
Mm-hmm.
And the fees should be really increased to more like $10,000 per lot. Because if you're coming here and want to do 30 lots, you got the money to pay. The planning board will $5,000 a lot, but it should be a lot more than it is for a minor subdivision.
I know that is sort of a separate issue, the fee structure, and they just changed all the fees in January. I just don't know what they changed them from. I tried
They
to,
increased the escrow fees to cover,
but they didn't change the
They sure
subdivision
have
fees
been.
to pay you?
Escrow fees,
sorry.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think-
well, it was, I mean, you were noticing a lot of reaching out to the applicants to say, we ran out, replenish it, and you're trying to avoid having to do that so many times. So that if you have a larger escrow up front, cover the hourly rates that we have.
But you don't think the subdivision fees changed? I was trying to get a copy of the old one
don't
today,
know.
and
The
I
escrow
couldn't put my
fees
hands
went
on
up.
it.
I think it was,
referring to that.
if you go to your
I think
website,
they
on the
did,
planning board
didn't they?
page, it's there, sticking out. It says fees have increased, and it lays it out. for you.
Yeah. Okay,
That was something that the town board worked on beginning of the year, right?
yeah, January, that all changed.
Right.
Okay. But what about anybody else? Anybody have any comments, changes? You agree with the
I think it's
new
great.
format, or?
I think it's a huge improvement. I mean, anything is a huge improvement.
Oh, it's easy to
like-
understand your.
It's so much clearer, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay.
And we may get feedback on it, and that's fine too. We may let it go for 6 months, 12 months, or whatever, and get
And edit it
feedback.
again,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, when you look at it,
But it's a-
because you did a great thing.
it's
You
a
compared
first
it to
good-
the existing application, which is sort of like scan pages sideways.
And that's what they are. That's what it looks like.
People writing on it. We look like a two-bit outfit here, and it's such a great improvement to have people be able to really fill out an application in a PDF manner, where it's just all in there.
And another thing we're trying to do is make the forms look uniform. They're all going to have that same sort of banner at the top, the wetlands application, the planning board, and Mary Alex is also using it on the zoning board is going to start using that format. So we're all going to look like we're together.
Right.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to
Thank
look
you.
at that before I submitted to her.
Yep.
For doing it.
That's really great.
All right. Great. I think that is it.
Can I just say one thing about the zoning changes? So anytime you're making large changes to the code, it's important to keep in mind that when you submit a local law to the state, they have to be of one subject. So you can't just go and change an entire code. If you wanted to change the zoning code, that's one subject, that's fine, but you wouldn't be able to change the miscellaneous section in the code and then also the zoning code in one submission. So just keep that.
So the only thing we really change is the zoning code.
When you're wanting to put everything together, just keep in mind that you want to keep it all in one subject matter.
And something like noise ordinance.
Of course, yeah.
I believe so, yes, maybe unless it is in
Yes.
And we're just citing things that come in forms.
Yeah.
Like we're trying to influence the code.
What's that?
It's not like the planning board is trying to influence the code at all. We're just going to bring up things that have come up.
That's
You know,
exactly,
in the
that's
code,
exactly
so.
what I want to highlight for the town board and for our legal counsel, just to say, I mean, there are certain things like this non-conforming question that have actually, created, some, much discussion and conversation and, from this board and other town boards concerned about it, which the town then has to respond to, which costs the town money. It just makes sense to have these things be very clear and straightforward. So that's great. That list is great. And Megan, you don't mind, or you have that on your list just to
I
follow
do,
Sarah
I
Wilson?
will
Okay.
look for Sarah Wilson's list.
Okay. Great. All right. So can I get a motion to close?
Motion.
Second.
Close.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Nicole, you were the second? Okay, thanks.
I usually try to say my name, it's sweet.
I know, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Pass over.